Ambassador Jack Reeves was not supposed to be here. In fact, if you'd asked literally anyone at the United Earth Diplomatic Corps who should represent humanity at the Galactic Council's first official tribute ceremony, Jack's name would have appeared somewhere between that intern who microwaves fish and a moderately intelligent golden retriever. But thanks to a bureaucratic mix-up, a suspiciously timed flu outbreak among senior diplomats, and Jack's unfortunate habit of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, here he was, humanity's champion, Earth's voice among the stars. God help us all. Jack stared at the holographic summons floating above his desk, its pretentious calligraphy swirling in shades of threatening purple. You are hereby commanded to present yourself before the High Council of Galactic Unity to render tribute as befits your station as newest member species. Failure to provide adequate tribute will result in immediate economic sanctions and potential orbital interdiction. Dress code: formal. Punctuality: mandatory. Excuses: unacceptably. Orbital interdiction, Jack muttered, taking a sip of coffee that had gone cold 3 hours ago. That's fancy talk, for they'll park warships around Earth until we behave. It's actually quite serious. Ambassador Devon Park, Jack's assistant, and the human embodiment of a golden retriever puppy, hovered nervously by the doorway. He'd been hovering for 20 minutes now. Kids still hadn't learned that panic wasn't a sustainable emotion. The brief says every species in galactic history has had to do this. It's like an entrance fee. A hazing ritual. A shakedown. Dr. Patricia Weng interrupted from her position by the window. She hadn't looked up from her datapad once during this entire conversation, which Jack respected immensely. Patricia was a xenobiologist, with exactly zero patience for bureaucratic nonsense, which made her either the worst or the best person to bring to an intergalactic tribute ceremony. Jack hadn't decided which yet. They want to see how desperate we are, how much we'll grovel. Every civilization has to prove they're worth admitting to the big kids' table. And what happens if we don't grovel adequately? Jack asked. Economic sanctions, Devon squeaked. They'll cut off all trade routes. No alien technology, no cultural exchange, no access to the Jumpgate network. Earth would be isolated. Again. We just got here. Jack leaned back in his chair, which creaked ominously. Everything in the Earth Embassy creaked ominously. They'd been given office space in what amounted to the galactic equivalent of a strip mall, sandwiched between a Zenthari meditation center and something called a Krolmech spore bar that Jack was pretty sure violated several health codes. Not exactly a vote of confidence in humanity's future. So let me get this straight, Jack said slowly. We've been part of the Galactic Council for exactly 6 months. We've paid our dues. We've attended the meetings. We've smiled and nodded while they explained why humans smell weird. It's the lactic acid in our sweat, Patricia said without looking up. Apparently most species find it unsettling. Right, unsettling. And now they want tribute. Like we're in some kind of cosmic protection racket. It's tradition, Devon insisted, clutching his own datapad like a security blanket. 743 species have done this before us. The Zenthari brought rare antimatter crystals from their home nebula. The Krolmech presented bioengineered crops that can grow in pure methane atmospheres. The Thrin offered military technology that could glass a continent. We have to bring something impressive. Something that proves humanity deserves to be here. Jack stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Galactic Council station stretched in every direction, a glittering monument to bureaucracy and species diversity. Somewhere out there, 7 alien races were probably laughing at the humans right now. Poor little Earth. Barely figured out faster-than-light travel, and now they had to play tribute with the big boys. Well, Jack Reeves hadn't gotten kicked out of 2 prestigious universities and somehow landed a diplomatic posting by playing it safe. Get me a briefcase, Jack said. Devon blinked. A briefcase. Sir, we need to requisition something from Earth, something valuable. The council meets in 3 days. We need to send requests to the world government, coordinate with Devon. Briefcase. The nice leather one. Patricia finally looked up. Her expression suggested she was already writing her letter of resignation. What exactly are you planning, Ambassador? Jack smiled. It was not a reassuring smile. It was the smile of a man who'd once convinced a Martian colony to buy an entire fleet of hover cars that didn't actually hover, and had somehow kept his job. I'm planning to give them exactly what they asked for, Jack said. Tribute. Earth style. Devon looked like he might cry. Patricia looked like she was calculating the minimum distance required to avoid being associated with whatever disaster was about to unfold. Outside the window, the council station glittered with the light of 1,000 civilizations, all waiting to see what humanity would bring to the table. Jack was going to enjoy this. The council chamber was designed to intimidate, and Jack had to admit, it was doing a pretty good job. The room was massive, cathedral-like, with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time map of the entire galaxy. Thousands of stars twinkled overhead, each one representing a world under council jurisdiction. The walls were some kind of living crystal that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, and the air smelled like ozone and expensive cologne. Very expensive cologne. The kind that cost more than a small spacecraft. 7 pedestals ringed the central presentation platform, each occupied by a representative from the council's founding species. And behind them, rising in concentric circles like the galaxy's worst stadium seating, sat observers from dozens of other civilizations. All of them were here to watch the newest species either prove itself worthy or face humiliation. No pressure. "I'm going to be sick," Devon whispered. "Don't you dare," Jack whispered back. "Patricia, status report?" "Doctor." Wang adjusted her glasses, her expression suggesting she was conducting a fascinating scientific experiment titled, "How Badly Can One Human Screw Up Interstellar Relations?" She gestured subtly at the 7 pedestals. The tall one with 4 arms is High Chancellor Gorth. Zenthari. Pompous. Loves protocol. Speaks in third person. The small jittery one is Pip, the Flixian treasurer. Nervous disposition. Obsessed with economic projections. The one that looks like an angry lizard had a baby with a tank is General K's, Dracorian military representative. Aggressive, traditional. Hates change. And that ancient thing that's basically a walking pile of moss is Sage Mern, oldest member of the council. Cryptic, possibly senile, definitely dangerous. Got it. Politicians, accountants, generals, and cryptic old people, just like Congress. Patricia ignored him. The other 3 are less important to your immediate survival. Don't antagonize Gorth, don't let Pip calculate our GDP, and whatever you do, don't challenge K's to anything that could be construed as combat. Would arm wrestling count? Ambassador. Kidding. Mostly. The ceremony had already begun. A Zenthari representative approached the central platform. All 4 arms spread wide in a gesture of magnanimity. He placed a container on the tribute pedestal, and the holographic display zoomed in to show the contents, 3 perfect crystals that glowed with inner fire, each one pulsing with barely contained antimatter reactions. "The Zenthari Collective presents to the Council these star-core crystals," the representative announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Harvested from the heart of the Andromeda Nebula, each crystal contains enough energy to power a city for 10,000 years. We offer this tribute as proof of our continued worthiness and our commitment to galactic prosperity." The chamber erupted in polite applause. Gorth nodded magnanimously from his pedestal, all 4 arms gesturing in what Jack assumed was approval. "The Council acknowledges the Zenthari tribute. Gorth is most pleased. The Zenthari continue to exemplify the highest standards of galactic civilization." Of course he talked about himself in third person. Of course he did. Next came the Krolmech, a fungal species that looked like ambulatory mushrooms wearing diplomatic sashes. Their representative placed a sealed bio-container on the pedestal. "The Krolmech Spore Collective offers our latest innovation, the Omnigrain. This bioengineered crop can grow in any atmosphere, requires no water, and provides complete nutrition for 73% of known species. We estimate it could end hunger on 4,000 worlds within a decade." More applause. Even Jack had to admit that was impressive. Ending hunger was a pretty solid flex. Then came the Thrin, insectoid creatures with too many legs and a disturbing fondness for weapons technology. Their tribute was a portable plasma cannon, small enough to fit in a backpack, but powerful enough to level a building. "For the glory of the Council and the security of all member worlds," the Thrin representative chittered. General Kaze actually smiled at that one. Or at least bared his teeth in what might have been approval. Hard to tell with the whole lizard tank situation he had going on. 3 more species presented their tributes, each one more elaborate than the last. Rare minerals, advanced medical technology, a piece of art so beautiful that several observers in the gallery started weeping. The bar was getting higher with each presentation, and Jack could feel Devon, practically vibrating with anxiety beside him. Finally, High Chancellor Gorth rose from his pedestal, all 4 arms spreading wide. "And now," he announced, his voice dripping with barely concealed condescension, "Gorth calls upon the newest member of our council, the humans of Earth. Let us see what tribute this young species has brought to honor this ancient tradition." The way he said young species made it sound like a euphemism for something much less polite. Pip the treasurer leaned forward on his pedestal, his small frame trembling with what might have been curiosity or possibly just his species' version of breathing. General Kaz's expression suggested he expected humans to embarrass themselves, and Sage Mern, that ancient pile of mobile vegetation, simply wheezed and watched with eyes that had seen civilizations rise and fall. Jack stood up. He picked up his briefcase. Patricia closed her eyes like she was praying, and she wasn't even religious. "Showtime," Jack muttered, and walked toward the platform. The walk to the central pedestal felt about 3 miles long. Every eye in the chamber was on him. Some curious, some amused, most expecting a disaster. Jack Reeves had never been one to disappoint. He reached the pedestal, set down his briefcase, and opened it with a soft click that somehow echoed through the entire silent chamber. He reached inside with the careful reverence of someone handling something incredibly precious. And he pulled out a single chicken egg. White. Ordinary. About 2 inches tall. Probably cost 12 cents at any grocery store on Earth. Jack placed it gently on the tribute pedestal. Then he smiled. The silence that followed was so complete, Jack could hear Devon's quiet whimper of despair from across the room. For exactly 5 seconds, nobody moved. The holographic display helpfully zoomed in on the egg, magnifying it to 10 times its actual size, and rotating it slowly in 3 dimensions, as if additional camera angles would somehow reveal hidden features. Secret compartments. Anything that would explain why a human had just placed what appeared to be a small white oval on a pedestal where, moments before, other species had presented antimatter crystals and civilization-saving technology. The egg continued to exist, stubbornly unchanged by scrutiny. High Chancellor Gorth's facial expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and then settled somewhere in the neighborhood of deeply offended. All 4 of his arms drew back as if the egg might explode. This, Gorth does not understand. Is this some manner of human joke? A mockery of council tradition? Not at all, Chancellor, Jack said pleasantly. I'm completely serious. General Kayes rose from his pedestal, scales rattling with what was definitely anger. The human insults us. This is a deliberate provocation. An egg? He pronounced it the way someone might say trash or biological waste. Pip the treasurer had pulled out some kind of scanning device and was frantically waving it at the egg. His translation matrix crackled as he stammered. The material analysis shows calcium carbonate shell, albumin proteins, lipid compounds. Total estimated value in galactic credits is... He paused, recalculated, checked his device again. Approximately 0.0003 credits. That's 12 cents in human currency. 12 cents. 12 cents. General Kayes repeated slowly, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. Every species in this chamber brought tribute worth thousands, millions of credits. The humans bring 12 cents. Well, technically, I could have brought a cheaper egg, Jack said. This one's free-range organic. So really, I'm overachieving. Devon made a sound like a small animal dying. Patricia had her face in her hands. The gallery erupted. Aliens were chittering, buzzing, and making various sounds of outrage and frequencies. Jack's translator struggled to process. One species that resembled a floating jellyfish actually changed colors, cycling through what Jack's cultural briefing had identified as their equivalent of profanity. "Silence!" Gorth's voice boomed through the chamber, and everyone immediately shut up. Say what you would about the pompous 4-armed bureaucrat, he knew how to work a room. He turned all 4 of his eyes on Jack, and his expression was not friendly. "Ambassador Reeves, Gorth will give you one opportunity to explain yourself before this council votes to impose the harshest sanctions available. Why has humanity brought an egg?" Jack looked at the egg, then back at Gorth, then at the assembled council and the hundreds of observers watching from the gallery. "Because you asked for tribute," Jack said simply, "and this is the most valuable thing humanity has to offer." 12 cents, Pip wailed from his pedestal. "See, that's where you're wrong," Jack said, walking around the pedestal slowly. "You're calculating the value of the egg. I'm offering you what the egg represents." Sage Mern wheezed something that might have been laughter or might have been respiratory failure. It was hard to tell. "Explain," Gorth commanded. "Quickly." Jack gestured to the egg like a game show host revealing a prize. "Chancellor, with respect, what you're looking at isn't just an egg. It's a self-contained biological system, perfect nutrition. Protein, fats, vitamins, minerals, all packaged in a natural, biodegradable container that requires zero technology to store or prepare. You can eat it raw, cooked, baked, fried, boiled, or scrambled. It's edible by approximately 87% of carbon-based species, according to Dr. Weng's analysis. Patricia looked up sharply, betrayed. Don't drag me into this. You can store eggs for weeks without refrigeration, Jack continued, ignoring her. They're renewable, sustainable. The creature that produces them, the chicken, can survive in almost any environment. Deserts, tundras, space stations, you name it. They eat almost anything. Kitchen scraps, insects, grain. They require minimal care, and every single one produces about 300 eggs per year. General Kayes snorted. The Krolmech offered crops that could feed billions. You offer us poultry. The Krolmech offered one type of crop that requires their patented bioengineering process, which I'm guessing they license for a hefty fee. Jack countered. I'm offering you a living creature that's been feeding humanity for 10,000 years and doesn't require a single patent, license, or proprietary technology. You want to end hunger? Start with the simple solutions. Pip was frantically calculating again, his small hands flying over his device. But the infrastructure required. The distribution networks. Are you familiar with the concept of a coop treasurer? 4 walls and a roof. That's it. A child can maintain a flock of chickens. You don't need antimatter reactors or zero-point energy or whatever the Zenthuri are using to power their crystal farms. You need wood, wire, and some feed. We could have chickens on every council station, every colony, every settlement in the galaxy within 5 years. This is absurd, General Kayes growled. It's primitive. It's practical, Jack shot back. Which I'm noticing seems to be a dirty word around here. A ripple of muttering spread through the gallery. Some of it sounded thoughtful, some of it still sounded outraged, but at least they were listening now instead of just laughing. High Chancellor Gorth raised one hand for silence. The human makes interesting points, but Gorth remains unconvinced. There must be a catch. A hidden cost. Nothing is truly this simple. Can it be weaponized? General Kayes demanded suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Can it be weaponized? He repeated slowly, staring at the egg with new interest. I mean, you could throw it at someone, Jack said. But I wouldn't recommend it. Kind of a waste of a perfectly good egg. Does it require dark matter to hatch? Pip asked, still scanning. It requires a chicken sitting on it. Or an incubator. Basically warmth. Is it sentient? A voice called from the gallery. Jack paused. The egg? No. The chicken? Also no. Well, arguably more sentient than some middle managers I've worked with, but that's a low bar. Patricia stood up from her seat in the observation area. Ambassador, much as I hate to admit this, he's not wrong about the nutritional profile. The egg is one of the most efficient protein sources in known biology. If the Council is genuinely interested in practical solutions to resource distribution problems, chickens would be. She paused, looking pained. Actually useful. Devon was staring at her in betrayal. She shrugged. I'm a scientist. The data doesn't lie. Sage Mern wheezed again, louder this time. Everyone leaned in to hear the ancient being speak. His voice came out like wind through dead leaves. The small, human, shows wisdom. Old wisdom, dressed in new foolishness. Nobody was entirely sure if that was a compliment or not. Gorth's 4 arms crossed in a gesture of deep consideration. Gorth will admit, this is unexpected. But tribute is tradition. Tradition is power. Tradition is standing in the way of progress, Jack interrupted, and the chamber gasped. With respect, Chancellor. General Kayes' hand moved to his sidearm. Easy, General, Jack said, holding up both hands. I'm not insulting tradition. I'm asking a question. When's the last time tribute actually helped anyone? Jack didn't wait for an answer. He'd learned a long time ago that in sales, and diplomacy was just sales with fancier titles, you never give the customer time to think. You keep talking until they're nodding along. Let me paint you a picture, Jack said, starting to pace around the pedestal. Every species in this chamber brought something impressive today. Crystals, technology, art, weapons. All of it. Expensive. All of it complicated. All of it requiring massive infrastructure, specialized knowledge, and probably a small army of experts just to maintain. Am I wrong? Silence. Which meant he wasn't wrong. Now imagine a colony world. Remote. Just starting out. Maybe they've got a few thousand settlers trying to terraform a rock in the middle of nowhere. They're rationing food. They're waiting months for supply ships. They're one bad harvest away from starvation. Jack tapped the egg. You know what they need? Not antimatter crystals. They need breakfast. They need protein. They need something their kids can take care of while the adults are building infrastructure. The human has a point, Pip admitted quietly. Resource distribution to remote colonies is 17% of our annual budget. If a low-maintenance food source could be implemented, it's undignified, General Kazi interrupted. We are the Galactic Council. We represent the pinnacle of civilization, and you want us to become farmers? I want you to become practical, Jack said. Look, I get it. You've got an image to maintain. Can't have the mighty Galactic Council getting their hands dirty with something as mundane as agriculture. But you know what humanity figured out about 10,000 years ago? The civilization that controls the food supply controls everything else. Armies march on their stomachs. Colonies survive on sustainable resources. And nothing, absolutely nothing, is more sustainable than a creature that turns garbage into breakfast. You keep saying chicken, a voice called from the gallery. What precisely is a chicken? Jack grinned. Great question, Dr. Wang. You want to field this one? Patricia sighed deeply, stood up, and walked to the platform like a woman heading to her own execution. A chicken is a domesticated bird species from Earth, descended from jungle fowl. They're about this big. She held her hands about a foot apart, covered in feathers. They make a distinctive clucking sound, and they are remarkably stupid animals that somehow became one of humanity's most important food sources. How stupid? Someone asked. I once watched a chicken stare at a wall for 40 minutes, Patricia said flatly. They have been observed attempting to eat their own eggs. They will peck at literally anything shiny. Their survival in the wild would be measured in hours. And yet humanity has billions of them, Jack added. Because they don't need to be smart. They just need to eat, sleep, and lay eggs. That's it. That's the entire job description. Even humans can't screw that up, and we've screwed up plenty. But how do we know this will work for other species? Pip asked, his scanner still out. The biology, the compatibility, We've already tested it, Jack said. Over the last 6 months, human colony ships have been distributing chickens to 12 different systems. We've got them living on stations with Flixian crews, in domes on Dracorian mining worlds, even on that weird moon where the Zenthari have their meditation retreat. Every single test site reports the same thing. The chickens are thriving, they're producing eggs, and the local populations can't get enough of them. That caused a stir. Gorth's 4 eyes narrowed. Gorth was not informed of this distribution program. We didn't need permission, Jack said cheerfully. They weren't a restricted species. Just livestock. We filed them under agricultural exports. Check your own regulations, Chancellor. I did. Patricia muttered something under her breath that sounded like, of course you did. This still does not. Explain why humanity offers one egg, Sage Mern wheezed. Symbolism or arrogance? Both, Jack admitted. Look, every species that came before us brought wealth, power, technology, all the things that say, look how advanced we are, look how strong we are, please let us into your club. And that's fine, that's traditional. But humanity isn't interested in just joining the club. We're interested in changing how the club operates. General Kays stood up fully now, his bulk making the pedestal creak. You admit you seek to undermine council authority. I admit we think the council could use some new ideas, Jack said. For 10,000 years you've been playing the same game. Species join, they pay tribute, they follow the rules, they maintain the hierarchy. And where has it gotten you? You've got member worlds still facing food shortages. You've got colonies failing because they can't afford the technology to sustain themselves. You've got a system that works great for the species at the top and pretty badly for everyone else. And humans will fix this with poultry, Case said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Humans will fix this by sharing what actually works. Instead of hoarding it for leverage, Jack replied. That egg isn't tribute in the traditional sense. You're right about that, General. It's not payment, it's not a bribe, it's not a display of wealth or power. He picked up the egg carefully, holding it up so everyone could see. It's a gift. No strings attached. No patents. No licensing fees. No trade agreements required. Humanity is offering every species in this chamber access to chickens, eggs, and all the agricultural knowledge we've accumulated over 10 millennia, free of charge. Because that's what partners do. They share what works. The chamber had gone quiet again, but this time it was a different kind of quiet. Thoughtful. Uncertain. There's always a catch, Pip said, but his voice was uncertain now. Species don't just give away valuable resources. Jack smiled. You're right. There is a catch. General Kay's hand went back to his weapon. I knew it. Humanity wants trade agreements, Jack said. We want open borders. We want cultural exchange programs. We want access to your universities, your markets, your scientists. But most importantly, he set the egg back down on the pedestal. We want to change the whole idea of tribute. Instead of new species groveling and proving their worth, we want a council based on mutual benefit. Partnership instead of hierarchy. Sharing instead of hoarding. That's not how it's done, Gorth said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. That's not how it's been done, Jack corrected. But it could be. This egg represents a choice. You can reject it, sanction Earth, and keep doing things the way you've always done them. Or you can accept it, and accept what it means. That maybe, just maybe, the newest species in the galaxy has something to teach the oldest ones. Pip was calculating furiously again. If we accepted this proposal, eliminated tribute requirements, restructured entry protocols, the economic implications alone would be enormous, Jack finished. In a good way. Imagine every new species joining the council not as supplicants but as partners, bringing their innovations, their solutions, their ideas, and sharing them freely. No more hoarding technology, no more artificial scarcity, no more treating galactic civilization like an exclusive club where you have to buy your way in. Sage Mern was silent for a long moment, then he wheezed what might have been a laugh. The human speaks of revolution. With an egg. Bold. Foolish. Perhaps both. Gorth must consult with the council, the Chancellor said finally. This is unprecedented. Take your time, Jack said. The egg will keep. General Kay's wasn't done. Of course he wasn't. The Dracorian general descended from his pedestal with heavy, deliberate steps that echoed through the chamber. His scales reflected the bioluminescent walls, making him look even more threatening than usual, which was saying something, because even on a good day Kay's looked like he could bite through steel. No, he said simply. Gorth, the council cannot seriously be considering this. General Kay's should remember his place, Gorth said, but without much conviction. My place is to protect council interests, Casey growled. And this human is clearly deceiving us. There is always a price. Always. No species offers something for nothing. He turned to Jack, eyes narrowing. What is the real cost? What resources does Earth control that we don't know about? What leverage are you hiding? Jack met his gaze steadily. I already told you the cost. Trade agreements and open borders, Kaze scoffed. That's the setup. What's the trap? Do these chickens carry disease? Is there a biological component that makes species dependent on them? Are they invasive? Do they breed out of control and destroy ecosystems? They're chickens, Patricia called from her seat. The worst thing they'll do is poop on your lawn. Dr. Wang is correct, Jack said. But you're also right, General. There is something I haven't told you. Something humanity wants that I left out of my little speech. The chamber went silent again. Devon looked like he might faint. Patricia sat up straighter, her expression curious. Even Gorth leaned forward. Gorth knew it. Speak, human. What is your true price? Jack took a breath. Humanity wants something no other species has ever offered the Council, something that apparently doesn't exist in your traditional tribute system. He paused. We want friendship. General Kaze blinked. What? Friendship, Jack repeated. Actual relationships. Cultural exchange that means something beyond trade routes and economic projections. We want Flixian musicians to perform on Earth. We want human children to study at Zenthari academies. We want Dracorian engineers working alongside human scientists. We want mixed crews on starships. We want embassies that aren't just bureaucratic outposts, but actual communities where species learn from each other. That's... Pip's scanner clattered to the floor. That's not a cost, that's... Benefits both ways, Jack finished. Yeah, crazy, right? Here's the thing the Council doesn't seem to understand about humans. We're social creatures. Aggressively social. We make friends with other species on our own planet. We've domesticated everything, from wolves to cats to birds to fish. We form emotional bonds with robots. For crying out loud, one of our most popular entertainment genres is about befriending aliens. This is absurd, Kaze said, but he sounded uncertain now. Is it? Jack challenged. General, when's the last time you had a conversation with someone from another species that wasn't about trade negotiations or military protocols? Chancellor, when did you last share a meal with a Flixian just because you enjoyed their company? Treasurer Pip, Do you even know what Zenthari music sounds like? Pip fidgeted. Well, no, but humanity's been in the council for 6 months, and we're already drowning in bureaucracy and protocol. Everything's about hierarchy and procedures and maintaining proper distance between species. Nobody just talks to each other. You have a galactic civilization built on contracts instead of connections. Jack gestured around the chamber. You want to know the real tribute humanity's offering? Not the egg. Not the chickens. It's this. We're willing to actually like you people. Despite the weird smell comments and the condescension and the fact that General Kays looks like he wants to eat me. I do want to eat you, Kays muttered. See? Honesty. That's a start. Jack grinned. The egg isn't payment, General. It's an invitation. To breakfast. To conversation. To actually getting to know the annoying new neighbors who just moved into the Galactic neighborhood. Sage. Myrn wheezed loudly, and this time it was definitely laughter. 10,000 years, Gorth has maintained order, through distance, through formality, through fear of closeness. And humans arrive, offering breakfast and friendship as revolution. It's not revolution, Jack said. It's just normal. At least, it's normal for humans. Maybe the Council's way works for you, but humanity can't operate like that. We need connections. We need relationships. We need to know that when we call for help, someone's going to answer not because of a treaty obligation, but because they actually give a damn. The gallery was erupting again, but this time the tone was different. Excited, curious. Several species were talking among themselves in animated conversations. Pip had retrieved his scanner and was frantically making notes. If we restructured the Council Charter to emphasize cultural exchange, reduced barriers to interspecies cooperation, the soft power implications alone, we could increase member satisfaction by actually making species want to be here, Patricia said, standing up. Instead of feeling like they're stuck in an intergalactic homeowners association. Gorth's 4 arms were moving in agitation, cycling through gestures that Jack's translator couldn't quite parse. Finally, he spoke. Gorth must admit, the human raises points that are uncomfortable. The Council has maintained stability through structure, through hierarchy, through clear boundaries between species. What you propose would fundamentally alter everything, Jack agreed. Yeah, that's kind of the point. You can keep doing things the old way, or you can try something new. Partner with us, share with us, be friends with us, or reject the egg and sanction Earth, and explain to all those colony worlds that are already enjoying fresh eggs why they have to give them up because we broke tradition. It was a gamble, a huge one. Jack could see Gorth calculating, weighing 10,000 years of tradition against the possibility of something different. Finally, the Chancellor raised one hand. The Council will vote. The vote took 7 minutes, which, in galactic politics, was basically the speed of light. Pip voted yes immediately, already calculating profit margins on cultural exchange programs. Sage Myrn wheezed an affirmative that sounded like wind chimes in a hurricane. 3 of the minor council members voted yes after brief consultation. General Kays voted no, obviously, his scales rattling with disapproval, which left High Chancellor Gorth as the tiebreaker. All 4 of his arms were crossed. His expressions cycled through about 15 different emotions, none of them particularly positive. Jack could practically see the internal struggle. 10,000 years of tradition versus the fact that multiple colony worlds were already reporting improved morale thanks to chicken eggs. Gorth votes. Long pause. Painful pause. Devon was gripping his chair so hard his knuckles were white. Yes, with conditions. The chamber exploded into noise. Order, Gorth bellowed. Gorth has conditions. Humanity's tribute is accepted, but the Council restructuring will be gradual. Phased implementation over 5 standard years. Cultural exchange programs will be voluntary. And humans will stop filing livestock exports without proper notification, Ambassador Reeves. Jack grinned. Deal. Furthermore, Gorth continued, humanity will establish what you call a friendship initiative with all Council species. If this fails, if it causes disruption or instability, the traditional tribute system will be reinstated. Understood? Completely understood, Chancellor. We won't let you down. Gorth suspects he will regret this. But there was something in the Chancellor's expression that might have been curiosity or indigestion. Hard to tell with 4 eyes. General Kays stood stiffly. The Dracorian Empire will observe this experiment, but we maintain our reservations. Noted, General, Jack said. How do you feel about omelets? What is an omelet? Give me 3 months and access to your embassy kitchen. I'll show you. Kaze's expression suggested this was either a threat or an intriguing proposition. Possibly both. As the council chamber began to empty, species stopped to examine the egg on its pedestal. Some took hollow photos. Others peppered Jack with questions about chicken husbandry, egg preparation, and whether humans had any other revolutionary food sources they'd been hiding. Devon was hyperventilating into a paper bag. Patricia approached Jack with an expression of grudging respect. That was either brilliant or insane, she said. Can't it be both? You changed galactic policy with a chicken egg. Ambassador, the xenoanthropology papers alone are going to be insufferable. But she was almost smiling. Almost. Pip scuttled over, his small frame vibrating with excitement. Ambassador Reeves, I've been running projections. If even 30% of council species adopt chicken agriculture, the economic impact will be big, astronomical. And the cultural exchange programs could open entirely new markets for he caught himself. I mean, foster greater understanding and cooperation among species. Right, greater understanding. That's definitely what you meant. Jack clapped him on the shoulder, which made the small alien squeak. As they headed toward the exit, Sage Mern's wheezing voice stopped them. The ancient being had shuffled close, moving with the speed of continental drift. Human, clever human. Brought revolution. Wrapped in simplicity. The old sage's eyes glittered with something that might have been approval. What other miracles? Does Earth hide? In plain sight? Jack reached into his briefcase. He'd been saving this. He pulled out a small sealed container and handed it to Sage Mern. Sage. Have you ever heard of cheese? The ancient being examined the container, with trembling appendages. Cheese? What is cheese? Fermented milk, aged into solid form, comes in about 700 varieties, pairs really well with eggs actually. Sage Mern opened the container. Sniffed. His eyes widened, which Jack hadn't thought was physically possible, given how ancient and dried out the being looked. This is. The sage looked up at Jack with something approaching wonder. This is acceptable? It's delicious. We've got a whole ceremony around it on Earth. We call it a cheese board. Board, yes. Gorth must see this board. Gorth must. The sage caught himself, realized he'd slipped into third person, shook his head. Council must learn of this cheese. Behind Jack, Devon whimpered. Please tell me we're not restructuring galactic civilization again with dairy products. Not today, Jack assured him. Let's give them time to adjust to the chickens first. We'll introduce them to cheese next month. Pizza, the month after that. Tacos in 6 months if they're ready. Patricia closed her eyes. We're going to accidentally conquer the galaxy with food, aren't we? Conquer is such an aggressive word, Jack said, leading them toward the exit. I prefer befriend with strategic snack deployment. As they left the council chamber, Jack glanced back one last time. The egg still sat on its pedestal, spotlit and magnified by the holographic display. Small. Simple. 12 cents worth of revolution. High Chancellor Gorth stood before it, all 4 arms behind his back, studying it like it was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. Which, Jack supposed, it was. Outside the chamber, the council station stretched into the distance, full of species who were about to discover that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or military might or even clever diplomacy. It was breakfast, and friendship, and the deeply human inability to not share both with everyone we met. Ambassador? Devon said quietly as they walked. What you said in there, about wanting friendship, did you mean it? Jack thought about it. Thought about Earth, alone in the dark for so long before first contact. About wanting friendship. Thought about humanity's desperate need to reach out. To connect. To find others in the vast emptiness of space. Yeah, kid, Jack said. I meant every word. Humans are terrifying when we want something, and what we want more than anything is to not be alone in the universe. Even if it means restructuring 10,000 years of galactic civilization, especially then, Jack grinned. Besides, wait until they discover coffee. That's when things get really interesting. Behind them, through the chamber doors, they could hear Sage Mern's wheezing voice explaining cheese to a deeply concerned General Kayes. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, and the galaxy was never going to be the same.